Hi, this is the SASO University local SEO training on Google Business Profiles. So, what is a Google Business Profile? That's Google's system for tracking local business information. Uh, they can be created by individual businesses. They can also be created by local guides. Um, Generally, they're created by the business, though. Uh, those are the source of listings in the map pack, which is what we're primarily targeting with local SEO. It's formerly known as Google My Business, Google Places, Google Plus Locals. Uh, there are still plenty of search results out there that reference Google My Business, so just know that terms are interchangeable. And it's really easy to set up and optimize. It's just a matter of making sure that you're following the rules, which we'll get into in a moment here. So the first rule is making sure that you're using the right type of profile, which it will actually ask you during the setup process. The first type is brick and mortar. That's your traditional storefront where customers only come in to the business's storefront to interact in person. The opposite of that is a service area business where the business's storefront is actually closed to customers and the business will go to the customer's locations to provide service. And the third type is a hybrid model where the business is both brick and mortar and a service area business, which is actually quite common. So we're going to get into how to set one of these up, and I have a live example for you. First, it requires a Google account, and note that there is a limit of 3 or so per phone number, so uh, I would definitely not recommend using your own cell phone number to set up a Google business profile because you will very quickly hit the limit. If you're doing this for clients, you should have them set up their own Google account, have you then provide you with the credentials, and then you can create the Google business profile for them as well as manage all of their internet marketing uh, through that account. So you just need to go to google.com/business, click manage now, log in with the account that's designated as the marketing account for that customer. Then you just need to enter the business name and answer the prompts to get started. So we're going to click manage now, and it's asking for the business name, which is already populated for me. It's Kind Dwellings, and we'll talk more about the do's and don'ts of what to do with business names a little bit later on. This is where it's asking about what type the business is. Notice I didn't talk about online retail because online retail is not a supported business type on Google. So, or at least not for Google business profiles. So in this case, it would be a service business because we are not serving customers through a storefront. We are going to them. The business category is going to be property investment company, but I'll show you what the examples look like here. So the category should basically be uh, what best describes the business's primary operation. So let's say it's an HVAC company. We would want HVAC contractor. We wouldn't want to do air conditioner contractor or furnace contractor because uh, it's very likely that a HVAC contractor is going to be providing both of those services. So the primary should be what best describes that business. Um, and in this case, Kind Dwellings is best described as a property investment company because they are going to be doing property management, uh, but they're also going to be doing buying and flipping renovations. So it's more of an investment company. Where do you serve your customers? And it says this is optional, but this is what kind of uh, specifies where this listing is eligible to show up to customers. I've actually seen businesses show up outside of their service area, but the only time I saw that was when the business put in their address and then set their service area in a way that their address wasn't included. It was really weird, uh, but that's kind of an edge case. So I'm just going to fill this out real quick. You can put in counties, entire states, zip codes, city names, and it'll basically outline the service area on the map whenever the business profile is pulled up. So I'm just going to throw in a couple of the counties we're serving here. And the next prompt is for the phone number. And I don't have a website for them yet, so we're going to click next. So whether or not you get news and tips about improving the business profile is up to you. I would actually recommend it because they're actually pretty good about letting you know when things change, or if you're missing information or you haven't responded to a review. And the second one, getting invitations to participate in surveys. I'm going to say no, but that is entirely up to you. And away we go. So it's asking for my address. And while this is a service area business, and it does say here it's going to be hidden from the public, and post office boxes are not eligible, they are still likely going to mail me a postcard. And that's what we call the verification process. If you have an agency account and you have like 10 profiles under it, typically like you don't even have to go through a verification, but in this case I do because I'm registering it under the business's dedicated Gmail account. In this case, they're actually just asking for a text or phone call, but I have seen them mail postcards, and you have to wait like 3 to 5 days for the postcard. Then you plug the verification code in later to basically verify the profile. The other option is video, and that happens a lot with brick and mortar businesses, where they will actually require the business owner to have a video call with Google, where they show like the business's storefront, signage. Signage is actually very important. They need permanent signage, or at least signage that looks permanent, in order to get verified. But in this case, they might let me do it by phone. So I'm going to get a text message. And it says I'm verified. I got lucky. So the hours of the business are actually very important these days. So I don't anticipate anyone actually calling us or searching for our services, at least not right now, because we don't have any properties. So I'm going to leave these set to closed, but if you were actually going to specify when you were available for customers, you could do 24 hours if you're offering emergency service, or you could say 8 to 5, and you would basically do that for each day that you're open. You can also specify multiple sets of hours, or 2 sets of hours for each day if you close for lunch or something along those lines. But it is important that your hours are actually correct, and you can even set holiday hours or special hours. If there's like some snowstorm or something, you should like mark your business closed if people can't actually contact you during those times. This is just to allow customers to send messages to the Google profile. So in search, they can click on a message button sometimes and just communicate with you via chat. Um, if the customer doesn't want to log into their Gmail account and be available to answer chats, personally, I would still leave this on. And if a customer reaches out, I would just send them contact information like, hey, thanks for contacting such and such business. Please uh, give us a call at whatever the phone number is. Provide an email, contact page, whatever you want. Uh, on that note, regarding messages, you should um, always respond, no matter what. Unless you're marking it as spam, always respond because that's tracked. And if you don't, or you or your customer don't respond within a reasonable amount of time or don't respond at all, you will actually be removed from the messages program. So description, I'm just going to keep it simple to start out. Don't mind my typos. So what I'm doing here is I'm uh, stating what the business is and what it does, and I'm trying to make it uh, unique. Like, what about this business makes it important? And uh, the key point about this business is the mission is to uh, be more lenient about extenuating circumstances, like somebody loses a job, they get laid off through no fault of their own. Uh, this business is actually going to uh, not forgive rent, but give them a little bit of time to like look for a new job, get back on their feet, potentially provide some reskilling assistance. Uh, so that's the mission. I don't have a mission statement handy, so we're just gonna say lenient leasing terms. So photos are important. I don't have any photos of the business. You should not use stock photos or anything that's not actually representative of the business. So I'm going to skip that. You can get an ads credit. I'm also not going to do that because, in my opinion, Google Ads for this type of company just has no purpose. Um, you may want to look into this for customers. You might want to see if it applies to local services ads. Uh, Google ads are like the ones that show up below the Google guarantee, and local services ads are the Google guarantee. Those are the ones that are like right up top, and the leads are actually guaranteed. So that's something to consider later on down the road. I don't actually know if that credit is applicable to the Google guarantee program though. So that's it. It says I can update my profile once I'm verified, and I think I am. So I have to give you all a warning. Do not violate Google's guidelines. Uh, I linked them here, and I just have to say, violation of the guidelines is basically asking for either decreased rankings, suspension. I don't think they'll take your firstborn or anything, but uh, basically what they're saying here is play by the rules. They want an even playing field, and you have to do your best to foster that type of environment. I'm not going to read through these line by line, but I am going to call out some key points. And I'm always happy to answer questions the best I can. I mean, Google's not always 100% transparent about the true meaning of some things, but I think these first few bullets are very telling. Avoid prohibited content and behavior. There are various categories here, and they are all very clear for the most part. And if you click on any of them, they will tell you pretty much exactly what that type of content is classified as. This also applies to reviews. So you do not want to solicit reviews from people who are not customers or people who are just friends and family who have not actually used your services. You don't want to impersonate anybody. You don't want to provide misinformation. For reviews, and I'll touch on this later, like I said, that they have to be actual reviews, but there also can't be a conflict of interest, meaning it can't be from an employee or somebody who's not even, or somebody who's like an owner of the business. Do not leave yourself reviews. Do not leave reviews for your clients. You're just kind of asking for trouble. Back to the guidelines. Make sure your address and service area are accurate. Basically, represent your business online the same way it is in the real world. Don't use a bunch of categories just for the sake of using a bunch of categories. And there should only be one profile per business. The only real exception to that is if a business has multiple legitimate locations with separate employees, different service areas, a different phone number. I will tell you, if you create a Google business profile with the same name, same website, and same phone number as an existing listing, one or both of them will probably be suspended, probably the new one. You are able to make posts to Google business profiles, which I highly recommend. It's basically another social media site that is just contained within Google, and those posts only show up when somebody's looking at the Google profile, but it does help with search, especially when there's a lot of activity. That said, again, the posts actually have to have some kind of value. You can't just create images that don't actually represent the business. It's a good idea to like take photos of employees, the ownership, people working, customers getting service, anything that's relevant to the business, company vans, even the exterior of the building. So if we look at the guidelines for business descriptions here, that's all pretty clear. Be honest, provide value, don't offer sales and descriptions, and no links. The name is super important. And this should actually be the name that represents the business all across the internet, if possible. So if the business name is Kind Dwellings LLC, that's the legal name of the business. You can see here, irrelevant legal terms are not necessary and are actually like discouraged. So drop the LLC, keep it simple, and make sure you're using the same name everywhere. Do not use a name that the business does not have the rights to use. So let's say, for example, well, not even for example, my business's name is Bill Wolf Media. If I listed my company on Google as Bill Wolf Media, Pittsburgh Marketing Services, I can guarantee you that I will eventually be suspended, or they will just change it back to what's reflected on my website. Something I actually do for my customers is I seek out their competitors and find ways that they violated terms, and either suggest edits to the listing, and if that doesn't work, I will actually fill out I think it's called a redressal form for Google Business Profiles to basically say they're cheating, get rid of them, and it does work. Phone number guidelines are also pretty clear. Local numbers are preferred. The phone number actually needs to be owned by the business, and there shouldn't be any kind of switcheroos going on. Like, when somebody calls that number, that's the number they should actually be getting connected with. Also, don't use numbers that cost people money. That's a good way to get banned. There's some examples for specific types of businesses in regards to hours here. Like I said, I'm not going to read everything verbatim, but there are some guidelines for brands and departments within various types of businesses. Again, if you're going to set up a Google Business Profile, you should read these guidelines in their entirety, and I would honestly recommend doing some kind of refresher every 6 months or so, just so you're up to date, because they do change from time to time. So once your profile is set up, accessing your business on Google is easy. Just search for the business name. That's my preferred method. Or you can click the apps menu next to your avatar in the top right corner of google.com, and then go to Business Profile Manager. From the Business Profile Manager, you can click on your business name, then load the dashboard. So here we are. You can see my service area, which covers the 3 counties that I specified. If I did cities, it would basically do the outer bounds of all of those cities to form a service area. So it won't be like a symmetrical shape, or even specific to the cities that you list. So if I list a city on the east side of my county and one on the west side of the county, you're basically going to have a service area that looks kind of like this. That's why I like to do counties, because it's all encompassing. And I have to specify it is based on address. So whatever address you specify for the business, regardless if it's a service area business or not, your local rankings are going to depend heavily on where your business is in location to where the user is either searching, or the city that they are searching for a service in. And what we're going to cover throughout this course is how to expand the area in which a business shows up in search results, as well as how to increase those rankings. So I'm going to start with basic configurations. I'm just going to go from left to right here. Actually, starting with the profile on the right, you can add business hours, you can add a website, very easy user interface. If you click edit user business or edit business information, that's going to be the same as edit profile, I believe. So you have the business name that should almost never change unless it's wrong, or the business name legitimately changes. Opening date, that's actually an important one, because Google will display how long a business has been open in search results. So this one's a New Year's baby, January 1st. and that drop down's a little bit funny, so it won't show the 1 or 2 there, so I click 3 and then hit the up arrow a couple times. Save that. Social profiles, it says new. That's very important. It actually says build customer trust by sharing your social profiles. I would absolutely list every single profile that is eligible that a business has, and I would post to them, because basically what's happening is Google is relying on other sites to prove that businesses are actually legitimate, active, and providing helpful content. So just having a website isn't enough. The web address is basically like if you go to that company's social profile as a user, what the address would be. So you don't want to log in to the social profile as an admin and copy the admin URL, because somebody's probably going to get blocked. You want to take whatever the public would use. Business location, you can see it says show business address to customers turned off because it's a service area business. If I were to check that, it would allow us to change the business's address, which we probably wouldn't do from here. We'll talk about that later on, but if I was doing an address change, I would just do it through Yext because it propagates everywhere. Hours we already discussed. You can add more types of hours, so this particularly for restaurants and anyone who has like hours for seniors or a drive-through. You just click the button and then fill out the hours. More from the business, you should basically fill out as many of these as possible, just to specify as much as you can about the business. Completion is important. Service options are also important. So if you support a language or don't support a language, specify it here so that if somebody's searching for a real estate investment company, in my case, that speaks Spanish, we're not going to show up in search results because none of us speak Spanish. So that's it for business information. You can read reviews. We don't have any. There's a button to get more reviews. This link is awesome. You can basically send this to anybody and actually tell my customers anytime you have an interaction with a customer. Like if it was a positive interaction, technically you're not supposed to base off whether it was a positive interaction, but try to address any grievances before saying, hey, can you leave us a review? And always ask, because no matter what you've done, big or small, if you can get a review, it actually helps improve search engine rankings, and responding also helps. Messages, this is where you're going to see messages from customers. I thought I turned this on, but that's how you turn it on. So I do want to get text alerts for that. And I'm not going to make you sit through my verification. Adding photos, again, super important. Add your logo, add a cover photo. And like I said, just keep it relevant. So in our case, we would probably want to post like photos of renovations and like before and after pics, or maybe our first tenant if they want to participate in something like that. But the whole point is just keep it active. For my local SEO customers, I try to post photos once a month if I have enough content from the customer to actually post in that capacity. Performance, uh, we should talk about analytics a little bit later on, and it's kind of difficult with nothing here, but uh, this is actually really intuitive. A start month and an end month, and kind of get a roll up of interactions, which Google defines as a call, message, booking, request for directions, uh, basically anything they do that could be perceived as a conversion. So you'll actually get a tally in each of these tabs to tell you basically how the business did on a given day, in a given month or range. And in this overview tab, after a month or two, you'll actually start to see how many people saw the business profile, but also which searches resulted in the profile being shown. Advertise, we'll get into that later. Products is pretty straightforward. This is not a place to put services, but if you are selling a product, you would actually put the real product name, whatever it would generally be described as, the category, price if you have one, description, and this is actually really nice, a landing page. So if you are listing products on your customer's website, you can link to it from here. Drag a photo, publish, and your product's going to show up over here in the side panel. Services is actually super important. In this case, we don't have anything listed, and off the top of my head, I'm even struggling to think of what I would list as a service for a real estate investment company, but for the sake of example, if I was working with an HVAC contractor, this is where I would want to reference transactional keywords, which we'll talk more about later, but some examples would be air conditioner installation, furnace repair, HVAC repair. Be careful about being spammy. Like, I know I said HVAC repair and furnace repair. I wouldn't do many more variations than that. It does impact search, and I'm going to add a service here just for the sake of example, because there's one more thing I want to show you. Property leasing. So if now that we've added that service, we can click on it. We can change the name, but we can add a price. So if it's free, it's free. We know what that means. Fixed means it has a set price, and from means starting at. So let's say rent is going to start at $1,000 a month. For a service description, I would say something like, we have properties available for lease in XYZ city. You only have 300 characters, so it has to be kind of generic, but just be clear as possible about what it is that you're offering. Bookings is basically self-explanatory. You can link to your booking pages. So if you have like reservations for a restaurant, or like a Calendly link if you're a consultant, you can add your link here. Calls. It says turn on call history to see info about recent calls. I do not recommend that. And my customers, when Google turned this on without telling anybody, they basically show the business's real phone number, but if somebody does a click to call through like mobile, they're using a forwarding number. So then uh, the people who use that link, that forwarding number, end up saving the forwarding number in their phone, and then they try to call the business later after forwarding has been turned off, or they confirm the number with the business, and the business is like, no, that's not our number. So, in my opinion, the call tracking is not worth it. Um, if you do decide to turn that on, discuss it with your customers. Q&A is actually really important. So it's great if customers ask questions. They typically won't unless the business is very prominent. So just starting out, I highly recommend just putting together an FAQ. So you can ask your own questions, and once you post the question, you can come back in, click on it, and respond. And as long as the questions are relevant, I would say do that as much as you possibly can. Add update lets you add what I would call just a general post, what I described as a social post earlier. It's a pretty straightforward interface. You basically have a place to type, a place to add photos, and a place for a button. Call now is going to go let them click to call the business. Everything else is going to link them somewhere else. Just copy and paste the link in, but you could, for learn more, it could be like a service page or a blog, basically anything that's useful. Do an update. For offers, it's kind of the same deal, but you have a start and an end date, and you can specify like coupon codes, anything, any restrictions that somebody should know about before they try to take advantage of it. It's definitely something I would do. Uh, it's a good way to like announce sales, especially since they have specific start and end dates. You can just plug it in there, then just stop showing up after a certain date. And an event is kind of along the same lines, but it's something that's happening. So it could be a grand opening, it could be uh, hosting like a get together somewhere, and then of course you have room for all the details here. So next we're going to go over some more of the more administrative items. So if you click on the ellipsis next to profile strength, you have profile settings, people and access. Basically lets you delegate access. So if I wanted to add one of my business partners here, I could add them as an owner. Just basically type in their, like if they're in your Google contact list, you could do name, but I would just do email address. Make sure you're actually inviting the correct email address because you don't want to give some random person access to your Google listing. Advanced settings lets you control whether or not you want to allow the Google Assistant to do anything with your profile. That includes calling the business to basically verify store hours or any other information. Bookings from customers is actually something I would need to look into. I'm not familiar with Google Assistant taking bookings, but I wouldn't be surprised if it ties in some kind of booking link on the profile. Phone number is whether or not you want to show your phone number on your profile. In this case, I'm actually not going to show it because I don't need to take phone calls right now. Google Ads phone number is basically a tracking number, so that if you do use Google Ads, that's the number that would be displayed, or rather, somebody would call if they went through a Google ad. Labels, honestly, I haven't used them myself, but it's just a way of categorizing profiles in the groups internally. So if you have a bunch of them and you want to apply labels, you can do that. What else do we have here? Removing the profile. This is all pretty clear. Stop managing this profile means you are disowning the business. Hopefully you have like another manager or owner in place so that they can take it over. Marking the business as closed. This is actually really important because it's not permanent necessarily. Like, you could say that you're temporarily closed and then reopen it later. If you do permanently closed, that's basically going to flag the business as out of commission. It's not going to show up in search results generally. You're not going to get phone calls. Don't do that unless the business is actually closed. Also, on that note, if a business is moving, do not permanently close the location. You should just change the address. Re-verify if you have to. You might drop out of search for a couple of weeks while it's getting verified, but you don't want to lose everything associated with a profile just because a business moved. Just update it. And here's where you remove other managers. Sorry, I misspoke. This is where you remove everything about the profile. Like, absolutely scrub it. And at the same time, you can mark it as closed. Linked accounts, I'm not going to get into this, but if you do link it up with Google Ads, local services ads, basically anything else that taps into a Google business profile, that's where you would do it. Notifications, these are all the things that Google will ping you about on this email address. So I actually do like getting text alerts. I actually don't even think they have an app anymore, so it would be good to know. I'm not going to go through each one of these notification types, but if you are looking to configure your notification settings, do it here. And if you click on your business profiles, it'll list out all the ones that you have on this account. This actually comes in handy. Oops, did not mean to add a new one, or I didn't mean to go there. This is good if you have multiple businesses under the same Google account. So if you click on Google Apps and you go to Business Profile Manager, in this case, it took me right back to my profile, but if you do have multiple listings, that's where you would manage them. So that's just about everything. You can see you can add an update. It's just adding a post or offer down here. You can get reviews. If you want to add photos, you can just click here. And this is all directly on the Google listing. I am going to get into local citations. And I don't know why this is a black screen. I'm going to get into local citations and generally managing listings in bulk in a future training. So there it goes. If you click add photos, this is where you can basically add photos to this listing. And that's all I have for you right now. So thanks for coming. Um, I'll see you for the next one.